Welcome to today's focus for Wednesday, December the 7th, 2022 at 11:36 a.m. Central Time. Today's focus, looking at what disappears. Looking at what disappears. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, do you ever find yourself focusing, looking, pursuing that very thing that is simply going to disappear? You're focusing on it. You're working towards it. You're trying to hold on to it, but it's just going to disappear. It's not going to last. Do you have a tendency to do that? I think we all have a tendency to do that. I think as human beings, we have a tendency to be drawn to that which is temporal versus that which is eternal. There's something about us that just grabs onto. We look at what is going to simply disappear. We look at it. We focus on what's going to be there, and then it's just going to be gone. That is today's focus. Now, how did I arrive at today's focus? Well, thanks to one of our listeners. Yesterday, we did today's focus really on navigating the strange world of Christian morality, and we focused in specifically on gambling. And I asked some people to look up some scriptures that would possibly be used to speak against gambling or condemn gambling, and then some verses that may say, okay, you have freedom to do so. And they sent me a list of scriptures of verses that would possibly be used against gambling. They sent me verses that would possibly say you have the freedom or Christian liberty to engage in it. Then they sent a favorite expression, and then they sent a verse attached to that. So I love when, and in fact, this listener, I probably had just gotten off the air. Maybe I'd only been off the air 5 or 10 minutes, and the email already arrived. So thank you so very much. I'm very aware that I know it's a problem that I have, because I do it with everything. And I know that in some ways, like if I'm just going to be if I even try to be realistic, if I even try to have some touch to reality, I know that it's impossible, because I make every single episode really an episode that I call for listener participation. Right? Like, it doesn't matter what the episode is. I'm like, well, do this and participate and send me this. And I know you can't participate in everything. You've got a life to live. You've got other podcasts to listen to. And my podcast is like, okay, today for group participation, you're going to be doing these 37 different things. And I know that probably listeners just kind of roll their eyes. I'm like, I'm not going to do any of that. I know I do that. So I will try to get better at that and not do that in every single episode. But I do appreciate the listeners who try to participate in as much as they can. And I do appreciate this listener. I mean, she was quick. I mean, like I said, I got off the air and boom, there was the email. There was the verses. So, of course, I started looking. She just gives me the scriptural reference. And I grabbed my Bible and started looking them up. And I looked at the first one and was like, whoa, that is good. That is really good. But I don't want to use it necessarily in light of gambling. I want to use this in light of the idea that I already gave you right at the beginning, focusing and looking at that which disappears, looking at what disappears. I mean, do you really want to focus? Do you really want to look? Do you really want to spend your time looking at something that's just going to disappear? I know if in theory you'll be like, absolutely not. But in reality, I think we have a tendency to do that, which really leads to a bigger question for today's focus. Why are we so drawn? Why are we so enamored? Why are we so focused on the temporal, and we almost ignore the eternal? What is it about the temporal that we're like, that's what I'm going to focus on? It's almost like we perceive, and I know we would never admit this, but it's almost as if there's something inside of us that perceives the temporal to be eternal. I mean, I think about that. Look, we know that everything around us is temporal. It's here and it's just going to disappear. It's here and it's gone. We have to know that. But as soon as things around us disappear, they go, they leave, we always sometimes act so devastated, so shocked, so destroyed, as if, wait a minute, that was supposed to last forever. But there's something, I don't know what it is about us, but we tend to perceive that the temporal will last forever. And I think we see the eternal almost as if it's a fairy tale, as if it's just, we're not so sure about the eternal, but the temporal we can touch, we can see, but then we almost treat it as if, well, it's supposed to always be here. It's supposed to always be that way. And it disappears, and then we are devastated. Now, the verse that led to all of this, that this listener sent to me, was Proverbs 23:5. Proverbs 23:5. Proverbs 23:5. Please listen to this. This is a powerful verse. Proverbs 23:5. I've been thinking about it since yesterday. Proverbs 23:5. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Now, the King James uses that very interesting phrase, set thine eyes upon that which is not. Okay, that almost is like I'm setting my eyes on something that's not actually there. That kind of gives maybe a little bit of a different feel for this, or a different perspective. If we read it in other translations, I have a different Bible right here. If I said Psalms, I apologize. Proverbs 23:5. Proverbs 23:5. I hope I didn't say Psalms 23:5. Proverbs 23:5. And now listen to this. As soon as your eyes fly to it, it disappears. For it makes wings for itself and flies like an eagle to the sky. Now, what it's focusing on here is the idea of riches, the idea of wealth. Right? That's the focus of the verse. The verse is like, hey, you're as soon as your eye flies to it, it disappears. Talking about wealth, talking about riches. But I think it can be applied. I think the principle is applicable to so many things in our lives. Our eyes focus on it, and we need to realize it's just going to fly away. It's just going to disappear. Here's how the verse is translated in a number of English translations. Proverbs 23:5, New International Version. Cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone. Hey, just look at riches, and then they're gone. For they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. New Living Translation. If in the blink of an eye, wealth disappears. ESV. When your eyes light on it, it is gone. Berean Standard Bible. When you glance at wealth, it disappears. All of them give you that same idea that it's there and then it is gone. The Amplified Bible. When you set your eyes on wealth, it is suddenly gone, for wealth certainly makes itself wings like an eagle that flies to the heavens. The first commentary that I looked at said this: why cast longing looks towards this wealth and prepare for yourself loss and disappointment? The pursuit is vain, and the result is never secure. What you gained by long toil and prudent care may be lost in an hour. What a great quote. That's from the Pulpit Commentary. I really love that quote. Let me read that to you again. Why cast longing looks towards this wealth, and so prepare yourself for loss and disappointment? The pursuit is vain, and the result is never secure. What you gained by long toil and prudent care may be lost in an hour. Wow, that's powerful. Why do we look at that which disappears? Why do we pursue that? I don't have a definitive answer to the reason we're so drawn to that and the reason we do so, but we have to first of all, we have to acknowledge that all the things around us, that's temporal. It's going to be gone. We have to realize that. We have to do better at acknowledging it. We have to do better at admitting it. But there's something inside of us that I think we're almost blinded to that fact. We have to acknowledge it. And second, we have to learn to look, to focus and pursue that which is eternal. Now, in my life, sometimes I think I have done that. I have kind of a natural tendency to see how temporal things can be and try to focus or try to pursue that which I think had more lasting value. Let me just give you some examples. And maybe this will make sense. I don't know if it will, but let me see if these examples will make sense. For example, when I was young, every time I got close to July the 4th, now I lived in Buffalo Gap, Texas, which was population, 250 people. I mean, you had lots of freedom when you live in a little town like that, right? I don't even know if you can call it a town, but Buffalo Gap, Texas, all right? You could just do a lot. So the one thing obviously we could do is when it got close to 4th of July, is everyone would go and buy crazy amounts of fireworks because you could just, you could set them off and there was no cops. There's nothing to worry about. There was no issues. But I was always the kid who was like, nope, not spending $1 on fireworks. Not going to spend 15 cents. I'm not going to spend 20 cents. I'm not spending $1 on fireworks. Because in my mind, wait a minute, I could go buy music, an LP, CD. I could buy music. That's going to last. In fact, most of those CDs I purchased at that time, I still own, okay? Some of those LPs I still own. They're still in perfect condition, right? Books, or I would buy books. Many of those books I still own and still possess. So I wouldn't do it because I'm like, you're going to take these fireworks, you're literally going to set them on fire and they're gone. You get an explosion, you get some light and it's just gone. Why would I spend money on that which is just going to disappear? Why am I going to, no, not going to do that. Another example, when I grew up at a time where, the local mall was basically the babysitter, all right? And so my parents, this was a common occurrence in our life. You got dropped off at the mall at around 8 o'clock in the morning. The stores weren't even open yet. And you got picked up around midnight, right? And you spent all day at the mall. We were given a certain amount of money. And my brother had a tendency to go to the video arcade. And I was like, nope, not spending 1 cent in there because what do I get? I play the game and then it's gone. No. No, what am I going to do? I had it mapped out, right? I'm going to go to the bookstore. I'll spend hours going through the books till I find the one, purchase it. Then I'll go to the music store, spend hours looking, purchase the album. I'll go to lunch, okay? Food, got to have food. And then the one thing I would do that did not necessarily last was I would go to a movie because that took up about 2 hours. 2 hours and 20 minutes of my time, and I was going to be there. But I planned it out, but I wanted to get that which I thought would last. So I've always had that at least in my mind. And I've also been very, very, very painfully aware. And I think a lot of this really impacted me is when obviously my mother died when I was young, made me just realize nothing lasts. Nothing is guaranteed. It's transient at best. It's here and then it's gone. And so, one more example is I've talked about this many times. It's when I was in the United States military. And I realize how people get so caught up in their career. Every day, everybody gets so upset about what's going on at work, like it's the biggest deal in the world, and get mad and get this and this. And they got to pursue this next advancement in their career and this. And I would always look at them like, guys, you're all pursuing that which is going to disappear. And then when someone would retire and have their retirement ceremony, right? It's a big deal in the military, the flag, all the different things people do in their retirement ceremony. What I would always do is as soon as the retirement ceremony was over, I would run up to the second or third story of the hospital, third floor of the hospital, where I could kind of oversee when people left the main entrance. And I would go and watch the person who would retire as they walked out of the hospital. And many times they would walk out and it was almost kind of like there was There was like a slowness in their walk. It's almost like it was starting to dawn on them that all of those years they spent in that hospital, all of those good days, bad days, fighting for this, trying to get this, it was over. And all they're doing, walking away, as they walk away, they may have what we call a shadow box where you put your medals and the flag. They may have some cards, maybe a piece of cake, whatever the case they're carrying with them. They have a box with the stuff that was on their desk, and they walk out, and they would get a little further down, and they would stop and kind of look back at the hospital. And I'd be like, there it is. There it is. They just realized it's all gone. All that they pursued and worried and focused on, it just disappeared. Don't pursue. Don't focus on that which disappears. We've got to pursue and focus on that which will last, because everything is temporal. Everything around you, it's disappearing. It's in the process of disappearing. I mean, just think about our own lives. We're in the process of dying, right? We're born and we just really start the process of dying relatively quick, correctly? Everything around us, your job, your career, your health, everything, it is going away. It's going to disappear. Even this podcast, I can work and I can focus on it, but it's just going to disappear. And then everything I've did and all the things that I thought was so important, nobody's going to remember it. Nobody's going to care. The only things that matter are that which is eternal. So I want to read Proverbs 23:5 one more time. Today's focus, looking at what disappears. Proverbs 23:5, will thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Yes, that applies specifically to riches. I understand that. But the principle is applicable to anything that is temporal, because it will fly away. Even your own life. Even your own life. We need to acknowledge how temporal things really are, and we need to pursue that which is eternal. Today's focus, looking at what disappears.